Greetings. Another quick one for a battle report for a local tournament. So, the tournament itself was in my current hometown in Brno, in Czech Republic, and was the final one in a series of tournaments that made up the Bat Time League or Bat Time Stories League, which was run by the organisers from the various cities, but mainly from the TO in Bratislava. And I can only call that a major success. So if you are struggling with your local meta, in terms of trying to kindle some interest or bring new players in or keep the old players regular at your events, doing something like a league system with some casual achievements and some competitive achievements in tandem was really, really successful in our meta, and led to a lot of cool interactions with the community and some really positive results. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, but it sounds like something for you, let me know and I can probably put you in touch with that guy, and he can share some advice. And who knows, maybe some of the materials, god damn it, English, materials that he used during that. So we had sort of score sheets with various things, and two sort of the casual achievements and the hardcore achievements running side by side and stuff like that. So that was great. This event was a good old 3-rounder. We were supposed to have 12 people, but we ended up with 11, so there was a drop, which is a shame, and that's a little bit on the low end for our local events. Normally we'd see more like sort of 16 to 18. This was a slightly lower turnout. I guess we're getting into summer, and so priorities shift a little bit, but nonetheless, nicely run. Timing was good. We were done starting in a good time, finishing in a good time. Lunch was provided by our local gaming club, which was great. Misha, always a pleasure dealing with us and providing for us, so that's great. And the night before the event, the Brno TO hosted a barbecue at his place, so a lot of us were there drinking and eating, and then some of us went home and got some sleep, and some of us did not. Which brings us on neatly to round one. My opponent stayed up drinking for quite a while, and so I was up against Christoph from Bratislava and his Resurrectionists. Now, this tournament, strangely, because of the way that the league had run in terms of your best 3 results from the year, I've had some good results this year, and so on paper, we needed, I think, 16 people to arrive for this tournament in order for it to be possible for someone to knock me off the top spot for the hardcore sort of competitive side of the league. And so because I didn't really have anything to play for on that side of things, I thought I would go the other way with it and bring out my Explorers, which I very, very rarely play. But I fancied it, and so I declared Explorers for this event. And however, Christoph is a strong opponent, and he's also on my team for the Cartographers Cup. In fact, most of the people at this event were on my team for the Cartographers Cup. So I wanted to give him, good training rather than me just having some fun with Maxine 1, which is what I was kind of in the mood to do. But I thought, no, we'll play McCabe, because I think that's more sort of what the meta is like, especially on that kind of pool that we were playing. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember there was outflank and I think protected territory, so it was quite schemy, quite avoidy, and I felt like you're either going to sort of see some Ivan style stuff in that pool, or maybe McCabe with good old botanists, and he hadn't seen botanists before, and our local guy that is playing Explorers for us is not a fan of botanists, and so we don't see them a whole lot, and I wanted people to get a feel for them and just be aware of them so that they could at least sort of start to prepare in their mind for, right, what do I do against some botanists? Because it is something you need to plan for, because they are defense 5 base, willpower 4. However, they grow immediately and go pretty much immediately turn 1 to defense 7, willpower 6. And then with McCabe 2 upgrades kicking around, they are sort of effectively 8-7. And that's especially if they've got the mirror, and so they're able to sort of recycle any cards that they cheat on top of that. Their defensive capabilities are ridiculous. Then they are also move 6 at that point, and with onward as a bonus. So 18 inches of movement per turn, getting to where they need to be, being a nightmare to kill, and scoring points. So I wanted to play that kind of style, so I wasn't looking to fight too much. He declared Jackdaw, which is a specialty of his and a comfort pick, and he felt like it was good into that pool. Because I think he was looking at the other half of the pool. So half the pool was fairly killy, half was not. He was looking at the killy half, and knowing me as a player, I do like to brawl normally. But in this case, I simply went all around the edges, just completely avoided the middle, went nowhere near Jack. I think I only killed his totem the entire game, and scored lots of points. He wasn't able to stop that because Jack still suffers from mobility issues, and while his hanged were able to move around and put some upgrades on, and of course there is that thing of McCabe's handing out upgrades, and Jack really benefits from you having upgrades, so I was trying to sort of stack multiple upgrades on a single piece, namely McCabe, and then maybe one of the botanists rather than having one on everybody, because that would give him lots of card draw and such. But I decided, yeah, so let's focus my upgrades. McCabe held the middle, I ran around the back and held on to his raid the vaults on the back lines, scored my protected and outflank, which he did try to deny with a dead outlaw. That was a nice tech piece, tactical action to remove scheme markers, so he was looking to sort of delay outflank as long as he could, but he was just out of range of the scheme that eventually scored me my outflank. He did manage to deny the final point of that, so I wasn't able to lock that one in, but I locked everything else in, so 7 to, I think he had about 4 points because he wasn't able to quite get the job done. And I'd say a good part of that was due to a solid amount of alcohol the night before, and then continuing as he left off in the morning. So then we move on to round 2. This is where things got a bit spicy. So once again, I was thinking, well, damn it, I've won round 1, so now I don't get to knob around with Maxine, probably. And indeed, that was the case. So I hit our Neverborn player for the Cartographer's Cup. And once again, a solid opponent, quite well versed in Nekima and Dreamer, and I think those are the main 2 he plays. I think he's got some others, but those are the main 2. And they're both problematic for me. I do struggle with Neverborn, and particularly I find Nekima 2 to be one of these sort of top meta masters. And I think it was interesting because there was a discussion about that recently on one of the Discord servers I'm on, I can't remember which one, as to what qualifies as top meta, and if you want to have things well balanced, then how do you define well balanced, and things like that. And some people sort of came up with their best definition of what balance would be, and so on. And I think I went the other way. I tried to sort of define for myself, at least, what do I think of as unbalanced or imbalanced, forgive me. And I sort of fell down on so each master should have their shtick. They should have their thing that they do, which is to say they should have something that is their game plan and should be something you are aware of and try to build around in some way. So, for example, if you know that they're going to come at you with willpower attacks, you shouldn't be bringing someone with willpower 4 into your crew if you can avoid it, if that's not a key part of your shtick or thing that you're doing. And that's fine. I think most, if not all, masters should have something like that, something that everybody needs to be aware of, something that gives them something to aim for, to be able to do, to bring their game plan online, and then both people are doing that, and they bring the combination of their game plan plus their little nod towards the opponent's game plan, and then you bash heads or you bash schemes, and see who comes out on top. Top meta stuff, and I include very much the stuff that I play in this list, doesn't doesn't just do that. They don't just bring their thing. So Shen 1 doesn't just bring, oh, I have some chi, I can have very high willpower, I can have very high stat attacks or defense, and by having one, I don't have the other because I need to spend my resource. No, he has chi pretty much all the time. If you play well and if you don't spend it on shit where it's not necessary, and if you use your students well and keep them alive to move chi around, and if you have a wind golem that acts as a sort of free chi battery that you can then move on to other people, and if you bring from Shen onto himself so that he's got an unlimited amount and his attack brings it back. So then this idea that Shen's thing of, hey, look, I've got this this chi thing and I can use it one way or the other. No, you can use it for pretty much everything, and there are ways to grind him down, and you can spend a lot of your game trying to deal with the chi. And you can do it. So, you bring Vix 1 with Taylor and Kenshiro, and then suddenly you've got 4 stat 7 attacks, and that can get around your stat 5 chi shitters, and you can deal with it. But it's not just that. It's the fact that then on top of that, you've got the Four Winds Punch, the Wandering River style. So you've got 4+ models with Butterfly Jump. That's always a horror to deal with, especially in combination with Chi. And then you've got this Four Winds Punch, which is a 6-inch push. You can do it with 3 different models in your crew, and one of those can do it 3 times, and it's friendly or enemy, and it moves schemes around as well, which means it sets up deathbeds and ensnare and espionage and pretty much anything you want with ease. And then you've got an unbelievably strong killer in the form of Shen. You've got card draw in the form of Yu. You've got mobility and non-shooting with the Four Winds Golem. You've got kidnap. You've got just everything. You've got so many layers, and this is where I come to define top meta, is that any top meta crew can not only have a single thing, they need to have a number of layers to the crew, which makes it to the point where your crew has to be built point for point, stone for stone, has to be built to answer each one of those layers piece by piece. You have to be able to peel back every layer of that crew, and then you have to play that pretty much perfectly, otherwise you can't beat them. And that means that you basically can't build to do your own thing, because all of your stones need to go into dealing with their thing, and that's not very fun. That's not a good experience. And so then you end up with what happens when top meta meets top meta, because now you've got 2 crews that need to build their layers. They need to spend their stones on their layers, but they also need to spend their stones on peeling back the layers of the opponent. Now, I personally really enjoy those games because that balance is really difficult and really challenging, mentally challenging. And even if I don't succeed, it really pisses me off, but in a good way, because it allows me to have something to think about. If I feel like, oh, I can just go into this event and do what I want because I've got 3 top meta masters and whatever anyone brings, I'll be able to handle it, that's not very fun. I actually want to think, right, but what if they bring this? What if they bring that? How can I tweak my top meta stuff to try and deal with theirs? And that's how I enjoy the game. That's not how everybody needs to enjoy it, and I absolutely understand those who think that this top layer of like, as I say, layered crews that are just a real fucking obstacle course to get through and deal with. I absolutely get it if people don't want to face those or don't enjoy facing those. And that brings us on to round 2, which was I was aware that it was going to be either Nikima 2 or Dreamer 2. I was a bit nervous about Dreamer 2 because I've played Dreamer 2 into Maxine 1 once before. It's one of my first games ever with Maxine 1. And Maxine 1 tends to like to hire big chunky boys. And they really don't like having their focus stripped off and replaced with distracted, unresisted by Insidious Madness. So I remembered that game, and I just thought, look, I haven't got time to sort of learn the whole of Explorer's faction in one game. I'm going to have to just rely back on McCabe, who I know well from playing him in Thunders, and we'll have a go with the botanists and just see, first of all, again, this my opponent's on my team. I want him to see botanists. I want him to be prepared for it and have an idea what he might do differently next time. And also, I wanted to give him a good game, and I didn't think I might be able to do that as well with Maxine. So we ended up with McCabe, who I do consider to be top meta because you've got, again, a number of layers, mostly because of the amount of text on McCabe's card himself. You know, the -1 stats, then you've got the various upgrades, you've got the fact that he's going to give shielded to something, that he can give fast everywhere, so there's a lot of AP, that is melee attack is incredibly strong and has a strong trigger potentially. So there's and then that he's got a blast stun gun, which I don't use very often, but when you do, it tends to be money. So a lot to think about, and so and of course the ability to buff up any and all minions. So then what you need to concern yourself with doesn't just mainly equal his keyword plus best versatiles and out keyword. It's now all minions, because all minions gain this different level of power under McCabe 2. So I do consider him top meta, but I really strongly consider Nekima 2 to be top meta because she brings, again, this number of layers. She's got these very hard-hitting, incredibly fast combat finesse melee models, okay. You can bring guns to deal with that, okay. But then she brings the ability to throw away shitters, summon shitters, which aren't that easy to kill. They're in that sort of just outside of one hit range, but incredibly cheap and incredibly easy to create. And so she's throwing those against your guns. She's throwing those against anything that can't disengage. So almost all of the time, you know, then you've got these young and Terratop becoming these massive cavern and mature Nephilim, which are then, when they're summoned, they're not important for the strategy, but they can absolutely just stand on top of your models, which are important for strategy. And now those models, if they don't have Don't Mind Me, or they don't have Agile, or they don't have a way to be moved around, and even if they do, you know, it's layers and layers and layers. So, and if anything that fails, you take an automatic unresisted damage, which is bullshit, by the way. Nekima 2 herself has a reposition trigger, which she can easily get on a bonus, so you can never engage her and lock her down. She'll always just repo and then do whatever she was planning to do in the first place. You've got all of that, and if and when you can deal with all of that, you don't then have time to deal with dogs, which become more dogs, which then can throw out 2 schemes a piece per dog, and there's 3 to 4 dogs usually, throwing out 5 to 6 schemes a turn. So or just running around being significant generally, so that you simply can't win on strat. You can't stop them from scoring schemes, and this was the worst possible deployment and pool to fight Nekima on, because it was in corner. So the one thing she doesn't like is if you get in her face early and disrupt her unpack. Her unpack being, again, incredibly strong, just cycles a million cards and has an incredibly strong hand. So it's not like it's one of those where, oh, she's got all these resources, but what if she has a bad hand? Nope, she'll fix that as well. So she really is one of these top meta layered masters with a number of problems to solve, where every single stone in your list needs to be pumping out value, and even then it's probably not enough. So it's a really, really problematic crew. And so one of those challenges that I really enjoy mentally trying to solve after the fact, but during the fact it's just very frustrating, because as soon as I saw Nekima declared, I looked at the pool and I was like, right, well, he scored 4 on schemes. There's absolutely nothing I can do about that. That's just guaranteed. And so now it's a question of, can I deny a single bomb? So the entire game, before the crew is even declared, is, right, am I able to deny a bomb? And am I able to, while doing that, maintain my 4 bombs while knowing that I'm going to be engaged pretty much all the time against a crew that goes from 50 soul stones to about 70 soul stones really quickly, with very, very little counterplay if you're on corner deploy. So it's like, right, okay, we're going to have to really, really pump value here. And I wasn't able to. So I was able to get my bombs down. I was able to protect them. I was able to pressure a significant number of his bombs. But I made one pretty critical error, which is I brought in a botanist that had a bomb that I didn't need to bring in. And then he got fluked off the table. So the flips were pretty heavily against me this game. I don't really care. That sometimes happens. But on top of everything else, again, with these layers, you know, you can deal with having some flips not go your way, but not while dealing with the other 8 layers of this crew. So so this botanist that was then, you know, badly positioned then just gets powered off the table with a moderate, or was it even severe, I can't remember, on negatives, and that meant I couldn't do what I wanted to do. The reason it was in that spot was to try and eat a corpse marker, so to try and reduce his dog spawning engine, and his healing and his grow tokens and everything else and all the other millions of layers. And so I was trying to peel those layers back by getting botanists into good positions, and then also being close enough to bust out a bunch of shockwaves. I thought, if I can remove these corpses, I'll have a bunch of grow tokens, and I can pump a bunch of shockwaves into this bubble melee that I've kind of created over here. And then once that went badly and that sort of really started to collapse, and I could see that the dogs are already pissing out schemes everywhere and doing everything that you'd expect, it's like, right, well, now I've got to take some Hail Mary plays, because playing standard against this level of value is just nonsense. You're already so many soul stones down, and now you're another model down. So decided to take the risk and go after the combat finesse models. Normally wouldn't do that, but had to try it, and didn't get a single flip through, not one, not even on focused attacks, nothing, just didn't touch them at all. So then had to abandon that plan, because by that point, even if I managed to kill them, I wouldn't be able to get any value out of it anyway. One of them was already summoned anyway, so it didn't matter. So it was a case of like, right, okay, well now let's go back to plan A, which is let's try and deny. The one key piece that I had in my list was Winston Finnegan, with his ability to place himself out of combat. So even though all of my models were engaged all of the time, he was one of the few models that could get out, and with Don't Mind Me could actually deal with some bombs, and I did manage to deal with some bombs. Ducat was also pretty vital. I was able to give him fast a couple of times, and then dirigible ride him out of engagement with Winston, and then move, interact and dart bargain to really try and, you know, swing some bomb turns. But because my opponent had just value everywhere, he was able to simply, and especially because he had that extra bomb that he'd taken from my botanist, and I wasn't able to kill that mature. That was the one that I went for the Hail Mary kill on, because it had 2 bombs, and I thought, if I can get rid of that, I can probably deny a bomb this game, which is the only way I can possibly win. And I, as I say, failed to do that, unfortunately. But Winston and Ducat really tried. Like, they really picked up, I think they picked up 3 of his bombs. But yeah, I wasn't able to swing it round from there. So in the end, I clocked out trying to solve this puzzle, and as a result, my opponent was very easily able to avoid the second point of deliver a message. And the problem is that if you don't have activation control, and it's not always easy to maintain with matures flying around in the late game, then, as I say, he can always reposition out with a bonus and then just walk away, and you'll not score that deliver. But I couldn't see a second scheme that I could score more reliably than that, and I knew that I didn't have any, like, I couldn't afford any spare schemes or spare value to try and go for it. So I managed to score my 7. I did not manage to get the 8th point. I did not manage to deny any bombs, and my opponent took down a very well-deserved, because a very well-piloted Nekima 2 crew. He never let off the pressure, kept everything engaged, kept his cool under significant pressure. I was giving him as many problems as I possibly could, including clock, where I know he's uncomfortable in the late game, and he still managed to pull it round and score his 8 and keep his focus. So that was amazing. And he ended up finishing 2nd in the tournament without taking a loss whatsoever, so 2 wins and 1 draw. I was really pleased with that, because I know in the previous tournament he had a slightly lower result and wasn't super happy with that. So really proud and happy for him to take down that 2nd place. I then went into round 3 and faced off against Vojta Hulk, and he was playing Shenlong. Obviously, that's a master I'm very familiar with, and so this time I thought, well, now is my chance. You know, I've already lost a game, and it's a matchup that I'm familiar with, and I don't feel like bringing Maxine here will give my opponent a bad game, or me a particularly easy or hard game. So let's play some Maxine, because that's what I really wanted to do, and it's exactly what happened. So I was able to bust out Maxine, my opponent had a fairly linear game plan involving murder, which is absolutely reasonable when you're piloting a Shenlong crew. But that allowed me to sort of focus on my own thing, and so really to just enjoy the cardmancy that Maxine brings. So focusing on, which suits am I going to be using for which abilities, so that I can, and trying to keep track of his discard pile, which I don't normally have to do, but was kind of an interesting and fun challenge to try and cheat with that. Although I did try to do that with Hand of Janus. So I was playing the Hand of Janus, Hand of Janus, I'm not sure. Model, and god damn, that thing slaps. Oh my lord. The Seeker thing with the 4 blast 4, oh my lord, murdered a Low River Monk from 12 inches away, and the Four Winds Golem that had run away from Maxine on the other side. And thought, oh, I'll hide back here with the Low River Monk and then get healed next turn. No, you fucking won't. Zing! Absolute money. Oh, God. Meanwhile, just stood there tanking Shen and Yu while getting healed by Bo. Delicious, delicious. Machinists, I love them. I definitely wasn't playing them correctly. They weren't in the right spots. There weren't any really important auras to be ignoring in this case, but hell, I love them anyway. And just grabbing 13s, chucking those back in the Fate deck, grabbing a bunch of the right suit for Maxine, chucking those back in the Fate deck, going late, or trying to fuck with your opponent's deck, sort of putting Maxine in their face and then giving them all the suits that they don't want against her. I love Maxine. That's so much fun to play. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I'd absolutely love to go into Explorers with a bit more depth in the future and play some Yedza and some Maxine, and then have McCabe in the back pocket for when needed. That would be great. And I do love Tiri as well. So I think Tiri, while not super strong, is a master I'd love to play. So that was round 3. I ended up scoring all 8, and my opponent took, I think, 4. After I did manage to kill that Wind Golem and then the Low River Monk, and I sniped out his totems fairly early with what? One with Maxine, one with the Seeker Bolt from Janus, I think. Seriously fun. And my opponent, I think, learned a fair amount about sort of Shen sequencing. So he was trying to do the sort of million attacks approach, which works really, really well on models which have no defensive tech. But he was doing it against armored models, and that's not the way to go. You need to sort of shift your way of playing Shen to go for, like, right, I need to bonus myself with tomes to get focus, and then spend that focus in combination with aggressive chi, either by cheating, stoning, or using Low River style and more chi, to just two-shot those armored enforcers. So I think hopefully that's been a learning experience for him, while also being a really fun game for me. And by that point, I'd had quite a few siders, so I was also starting to relax a little bit, and as a result, I did have a few sort of order of resolution problems. I was messing things up a little bit, but fortunately, we were not playing for the finals at that stage, so while I always feel bad when I misplay something, it wasn't impactful, so not too bad. Event was good fun. Tables were varied and full. The event space, I've mentioned it before on the channel, so I won't spend too long on it, but Black Oil in Brno is a very friendly and welcoming space for board gaming, tabletop, everything. I really enjoy it. It's not the biggest place in the world, but they do well with what they've got, and Misha behind the bar is unbelievably accommodating for whatever you need in the gaming world, so can highly recommend it. And looking forward to the next tournament, which I think will probably be after the summer. It's difficult to organise during summer, and we've got the Cartographers Cup in Warsaw coming up, so we're prepping for that. And then the second season, hopefully, of the Bat Time Stories. For winning that, I ended up with this beautiful bat. Here we go. I don't know if we can read that. Is that there? Yeah, Bat Time Stories, and the Nightmarish Stud was the name of the title for the winner of the sort of more competitive side of that league. So that was fun. By the way, not real, not surprisingly, although it would have been interesting carrying it home on the tram. Fortunately, a friend of mine gave me a lift, so we didn't have to worry about the police. Although we could have just walked around and, you know, checked everybody's tickets please, while holding that. Would have been pretty funny. Right, hope you're all well, and I'm sure I'll have forgotten many things there, but I think that's enough for one tournament. So great to see everybody there. And one last thing is, if you're over on the Constructive Criticism Discord, the MWS event is just finishing today, the current one that started in May. And so, unfortunately, Maniacal Cackle is dealing with a few health issues that he's got to get through. So I offered to step up and possibly host, if we have the numbers, a small, 3-round event just to sort of tide us over between MWS events. So if you would like to get involved, just 3 games, just get some more games in on Vassal, then head over there, and there's a little poll thing with a thumbs up, thumbs down, and if we get the numbers, I will create some pools, and get that started. So yeah, hope to see some of you there if that works out. All the best, have a good day, take care.